and welcome to the Marina Skua podcast. My name's Marina, I'm a knitwear designer and yarn and fibre dyer based in the southwest of England, and today I'm going to be sharing some of my recent projects. It is drawing into winter now, it's getting very chilly, which I'm enjoying because it means that I can wrap up in lots of wool, but also the days are getting very short and so light is scarce. But I am sort of getting to the point where I am just wanting to hibernate. I want to curl up on the sofa and make things. I want to make loads of things, and I have been scattering my attention quite a lot and zipping from thing to thing, but really enjoying myself. So I'm going to be sharing some of what I've been doing. First up, I will start with what I am wearing. Now, if you've watched previous videos, you might have seen this cardigan already. This is the Quickbeam cardigan, and I have just released the pattern, so it is available now. And this is its first proper showing of it, its proper debut. So I'll show you some of the details. So it's a saddle shoulder. It's worked contiguously from the top down, so it's completely seamless. The button band ribbing is worked at the same time as the rest of the body. So the setup at the back of the neck, where you set up all of the saddle shoulders and front and back sections and everything, is a bit weird. But I like playing with construction details. And if you are familiar with my Welana design, it's a similar setup to that. The saddle shoulders have a moss stitch panel, which then runs down the sleeve and goes into these twisty details. And I just love how it turned out. It was, I think, about 2.5 years ago that I sat down for a Patreon video and sketched out what I was thinking for this design, and went through and I shared my process of creating charts and like how I was turning what I had into my head into something that could be knitted, and then doing some swatching and things as one of the very early stages of developing this design. That was a long time ago, and it's so nice to finally have it finished and out in the world, and people have already started enjoying the pattern, which is really exciting. And so yes, as I said, it's worked top down. The shaping on the yoke is a little bit involved because you've got different sets of increases for the shoulder and then for the sleeves and front and back. And they're all worked at different rates. And to help keep track of that, there is a yoke shaping table included as a download with the pattern, so that when you're knitting it, you can follow the written instructions for how to do the increases in each location, and you can tick off row by row on the shaping table which ones you're meant to be doing on that row. And it's kind of a formalized version of what I make for myself when I'm having to do any kind of like at the same time shaping. So if I have to, in anyone's pattern, whether it's my own or someone else's, I will usually make just a series of circles for the number of rows I need to do, and then I will code them. Like often, if I'm doing, for example, another project I'm working on, I've got neck decreases and armhole decreases happening at the same time, but at different rates. And so for the armhole decreases, I'll do like an extra bold circle for that row. And for the neck decreases, I'll do a dot above the row, above the circle. So if I need to do both, it's clear on that row which ones I need to do. This just has abbreviations. So you've got like F, B, S for front, back, sleeve, and N for neckline. And that just means you can go through your size and tick them off as you go. And hopefully that bit makes that easier, because it's not is not necessarily like a fun way to write patterns, but it does give a fit that I am really, really proud of round the shoulders. Not around the middle at the moment. We're sort of looking ribs up these days. Yes. So yeah, and it is, once you get into the swing of that and you know what you're doing with the increases and everything, it's then fairly straightforward to go through and just tick everything off. And it's just really enjoyable. And you don't have lots of picking up of stitches for the button band afterwards because that's worked all at the same time. And it's top down, so you can change your body length if you want to. And yeah, the buttons I have used are laburnum wood ones made by Tom Dyson. I have these ones in my shop. I can actually show you some of the buttons at the moment because I've recently had a fresh delivery of them. So I've got the laburnum, these ones I'm wearing are the 15mm ones, and we've got 20mm ones which are a bit larger. And then we have the same sizes in yew wood, which is a really warm kind of honey gold wood. And then new ones I've got in, I don't have loads of these, but I really wanted some of them, are cherry wood, which are really, really pretty. They've got some of the same tones as the yew, but they mostly have a bit more variation, so there's more light dark variation and visual texture in them, because the yew tend to be a bit more uniform in colour. But it depends because it's all natural wood. They're all from local trees and you can't make any guarantees on that. And so these are all buttons made from wood that Tom has sourced locally from, so he's down in or near the New Forest, near Southampton, and he sources the wood from tree surgeons who are working locally, so all of the buttons come from like a single tree, and you can imagine that one tree gives a lot of buttons. So I've got those in the shop as well. And yeah, so the yarn I used for this is Rauma Fennel, which is a nice woolen spun, sort of heavy-ish 4-ply weight, bouncy wool yarn, Norwegian wool, but it's fairly similar in construction and spec and meterage to my Mendip 4-ply yarn. And so you could make this in my Mendip 4-ply as well, which I also have available on the website. Trying to think if you might have any questions about this, because I don't know, it's just such a fun design. And since I've actually photographed it, because there's always a weird period where after I've finished something and like a knitted sample and it's going off to tech editing and things, and I haven't yet done the proper photos, I'm hesitant about wearing it in case I like ruin it somehow. So there's always a period where it's an item of clothing but it doesn't feel like part of my wardrobe yet, whereas now this is part of my wardrobe and I love it. And I think I might play with this construction a bit more with the saddle shoulder setup, because I do love a saddle shoulder, and see how I can play around with that format maybe for future designs, but those will be a way off. I won't be working on any new designs for a while now. I am going on maternity leave in less than 2 weeks now. I'm at the point where I'm just very excited about that. I am tired. Moving around is an effort, and my brain isn't working very well. I just want to sit on the sofa, as I said, and make things. And so what things shall I show you? Okay, so I'm going to show you another thing I finished, and I will put it on And in the meantime, that gives me a chance to show you yet another thing I've finished. So if I take off this cardie, I can show you my dress. So this dress I had been meaning to make for so long. I bought this fabric from Organic Textile Company, who are based not all that far from me. They're just over in Somerset, and I went and visited them back in the summer with my friend Lorna of Thread and Yarn. She does a lot more sewing than I do, but we had a very nice little outing to go and see and purchase some fabric. And it's nice to see what they have there, because I've known about them for ages. I've bought from them previously, but I had never visited. And I'm so pleased with the colour of this, because it's basically brown, but it's kind of also a bit purpley. I think it's... oh, I've got a bit of facing sticking out. I do need to stitch down this facing, I think, because I don't tend to iron things unless I really have to. I have stitched down the facing at the back neck, which I don't think you'll really be able to see. It's not meant to be stitched down according to the pattern that I used, but I went so far off-piste from the pattern that it kind of became irrelevant. I will put the details of the pattern down below. It's a 1980s Vogue one. I think it's a Ralph Lauren design, but that won't help you if you're wanting to recreate anything remotely like this dress, because this dress very little resembles it. I used it as a rough guideline for placement of pattern pieces and changed a lot of things. I removed darts, I made the bodice wider, I completely changed the shape and size of the sleeves. I added pockets. We have pockets, they're in here somewhere. Nice pockets, good deep ones. And yeah, it was meant to have a sort of flary A-line skirt, which I ignored and just did a big rectangle skirt. I shortened the bodice quite a bit because I wanted it to sit above the bump. The original pattern had a side zip in as well as the buttons, which was seemingly unnecessary. So I changed lots. Oh, I also completely changed the shape of the neckline at the front and back. It bears very little resemblance to the pattern I was using, but it's nice to just have a starting point rather than having to draft something from scratch, especially when your brain is just wanting to give up on things after a few minutes. So I had all of my pattern pieces cut out for a few weeks before actually getting together the mental energy to assemble it. And then I'm really pleased with how it turned out. I am still undecided on my sleeves. I feel like the sleeves as I have them now, I added much more poof, and they were meant to be just little cap sleeves. I feel like they've got a bit of a kind of 1940s vibe, which isn't necessarily what I'm going for. And I have sewn in elastic channels, but I haven't put in any elastic, so it's actually just open under here. So I can feed elastic in there and sort of gather them in. And I've yet to decide whether I want to do that. And so far I think I probably would prefer that, but I've been too lazy to do it. So the dress has been wearable as it is, and I'm mostly wearing a jumper or cardigan over the top of it, just because it's chilly out. So yeah, I think I am very proud of my buttonholes. I spent far too long trying to make the buttonhole attachment setting thing on my sewing machine work. It's always worked perfectly before. I have always considered it a marvel of engineering. and for some reason it just was not behaving itself, and I was running very, very low on thread, and I was very scared. So I spent a nice evening just sitting and hand sewing buttonholes instead, and I'm just very pleased with how neatly they've turned out. The buttons themselves are vintage ones. I'd bought these and some like the self-cover buttons, so you can use the same fabric, and I hadn't decided until I made the dress which I was going to use, but I'm really pleased I went with these ones. I think that's that on the dress. And I have like specifically made it to suit what my body is doing now, and also what my body will be doing next year when baby arrives, and buttons are very helpful. And then it's something that I will be able to wear ongoing. It might end up being a little bit wide then, but it'll just be really comfy to wear, and I think it'll work for most seasons because it's a little bit baggy, it's got lots of airflow, and I think that's nice. And I'm all for like getting as much wear out of the things I make as possible. And so this dress I'm wearing like most of the time. I wear it until stuff gets spilled on it because I have a small child. Then it goes into the washing, it's rotated with another dress that's a similar shape, and they just go on rotation. And I'm basically wearing 2 or 3 things most of the time now. And then this one's exciting. I'm pleased. I tried it on for the first time this morning and I'm so happy. If you watched my last video or any of my recent podcast episodes, you will know about my pediment and the drama it has caused. So we have a pediment jumper. I'm just so excited it panned out. So the last video, I chopped it up. I had knitted the body too long, and I already knew I had a yarn chicken situation, but I'm struggling with attention problems at the moment, and I was enjoying some plain stock in it. And so I cut a section out of the middle. There's a graft line approximately here, which I think, is it there? Yeah, it's up here. And I am so pleased that it is actually completely invisible. I'm actually very proud of that. And of the fact that we have functioning sleeves. It's a long sleeve jumper. Like, yes, we could do with maybe 1.5 to 2 extra centimeters of sleeve length, just for, you know, if we're doing the nice hitting the join of the hand there. However, as I have noticed with particularly many people who do crafts, lots of us enjoy a slightly shorter sleeve, just keeping things a little bit out of the way. And so this is the length of a lot of my sleeves anyway. It enables me to see my watch without having to push back a cuff. And so I'm just so pleased that it's all actually panned out. I was kind of admonishing myself quite seriously for having gone up a size because I wanted a slightly baggier jumper. Like, this is a size bigger than I would usually make for myself. And I knew that it was going to be a yarn chicken situation. I knew that it was on the cusp of whether I'd have enough or not. And I went ahead anyway, and that was foolhardy. However, I'm so pleased that it's actually panned out, and I'm really happy with the fit. I have lots of quite fitted knitwear, things that don't have loads of positive ease. Even this isn't hugely baggy, or at least won't be once my body is more normally proportioned. And I just love how it turned out. So I did make a couple of modifications, other than the whole cutting it in half thing. So this is my pattern. It's the Pediment jumper. I released the pattern years ago, actually when I was pregnant with my previous child. And yes, so the neckband is meant to be, you work it much higher and then fold it double and stitch down the live stitches to the inside for a double neckband. I didn't do that to make sure that I had a bit more yarn for the cuffs, because the hem and the cuffs and the neckband are a very slightly different yarn to the rest of the jumper. So this is a hand spun. If you want full details on the yarn, go back a few podcast episodes because I talk about it in quite a lot of detail, how I combined the different tops that I spun up and the different colourways I included. I'll try to remember to put a link to that so that you can find it. And so I had a little bit where, because I was plying together 3 separate bobbins which had 3 different colours of tops on them, I ran out of one of them but had a lot spare of one of the others. So I ended up doing a 3-ply, instead of 1 strand of each. I didn't have any more of this one, so the middle one I had 1 strand of and then plied 2 strands together with the bobbin that I had loads of. And that was enough for, I think, about 30 grams of yarn. It was quite a bit extra. And so I decided to use that for the little contrasty edges. And so that does mean you can see, or at least I can see, on the sleeves, where I started working with that different yarn a little bit before I started the cuff ribbing. And then the cuff ribbing is longer than it should be, because I just wanted it to be as it should be. So the sleeves are not quite the length written in the pattern. So I did decrease a bit more dramatically for this section here. And so the sleeve shaping is not exactly as it should be, but I'm again very pleased with how it's turned out. And I do wish, in hindsight, that for the section where, before I started the ribbing and I switched yarns, I wish I had brought in the cuff yarn a bit sooner and alternated rows or rounds with the yarn of the body. It would have just made the cuff transition a bit neater and like visually more distinct from the rest of the sleeve. But that's nitpicking. I think most people will not notice. So yeah, I'm very pleased with it. So we've got our nice little section of moss stitch that goes like a wedge, which is far more obvious than it usually is. And yeah, I love this. It's just, again, I tried it on for the first time since blocking it this morning. My sleeves did grow a little bit, which was nice, and means that the sleeves look a deliberate length. We're going with bracelet length, and I like that. So I'm very, very pleased with this jumper. This yarn has been sitting in my stash for a while. I can't remember if I spun it up last year or the year before, but it's been in there a while, just waiting to be turned into something, and it's really, really nice, especially with hand spun, to turn it into things that you can then wear. And on that note, I have been diving in some deep stash. This is a project that happened yesterday, start to finish. And I can't see them without laughing. I promised my little boy that I was going to make him some slippers. At one point he was given some little grey slippers with a tiny, very tasteful little pom-pom on the front. and he really, really liked them, and he was distraught when he grew out of them. He kept swearing to me that they fitted him still, and trying to cram them onto his feet. It's like, those have to go away now. You're hurting yourself. And so, as a treat, I said I would make him some slippers, and I haven't been making much for him recently because he has been refusing to wear things I've made for him. It happens, apparently. But with these, he did seem very excited about the idea and promised me that he would wear them. And so we went through my stash, and I tried to point him towards fun hand-spun that I had spun up years ago. That's yarn I otherwise don't really know what to do with. Now this is what I have left from this project. This is not an indication of what it looks like at all, because the ball happens to be on quite a white section here. If we look inside, that's a bit more of an indication. And it's got some sparkles in it, and he immediately wanted the one with the sparkles. Now this is not a yarn I would spin now. It's just not choices I would make in my spinning. I remember I had an awful lot of fun spinning this because it's a bulky weight. I mean, these days I just wouldn't go for yarn with any sparkles at all. It's not me. And I think this was from a bat, or maybe more than one bat. I don't remember. And it's a bulky weight. It's quite inconsistent. There's like a lot of luxurious things in here. There's a lot of merino. There's a lot of silk. It's really nice fibre blend. It's not necessarily my taste, but again. And yeah, so the small boy immediately went for this one because it had sparkles in it and he wanted the sparkles. And so I made him pom-pom slippers, and the pom-poms are just so unreasonably sized. They're literally bigger than his fist. But they're adorable, and I'm so pleased with them. I did very vaguely follow a pattern. I found a pattern for some kids' felted slippers that looked nice. I ended up not being super impressed with the pattern. The pattern writing wasn't really to my taste. And I also went completely off gauge in terms of stitch count and everything, so I used it for the basic construction and then freewheeled the rest of it. And the pattern does not include ridiculous pom-poms, but I love the pom-poms. So yeah, so the reason there's so much white on the outside of this skein is that when I was making the pom-poms and I was winding off small sections of yarn to create the pom-poms, when I got to the bit that I saw was going to be mostly white, I started pulling from the inside of the ball because I made them 2 at a time, and I wanted the pom-poms to be mostly orange and dark rather than lots of white in them. And so I was pulling from the inside of the ball for that. And I knitted from the inside and outside of the ball for each slipper. So it meant that I did not need to write down what I was doing in terms of stitch counts and short rows and things. Because I was doing one immediately after the other, it meant I didn't have to keep track of things. Had lots of fun making pom-poms. It's been ages since I've made one. And I felted them, I think, the correct amount. I put them in the washing machine to start with, just on a quick 30-minute cycle. I have a front-loading washing machine, as I think is fairly standard in the UK. I realise that is not necessarily the case in North America. Not really sure what happens in the continent, as in Europe. But I did a quick 30-minute cycle with some other stuff, and then hand felted a bit further to get them to what I thought was the right size. And then he tried them on very briefly this morning, and I'm just so excited to see him running around with these stupid pom-poms. But yes, so the absolutely joyful project. I kind of want some for myself. We'll see how these hold up. He's obviously only going to be wearing them around the house, and they are quite densely felted. I might end up stitching some felt soles onto them, as in like thick wool felt. I have a small sheet of it that I got from Fernhill Farm that's just in like a natural wool colour that I think would be an extra protective layer if either he needed it for comfortness, comfiness or comfort, or if it looks like they're going to wear out quite quickly. And I also have enough to potentially make him a matching hat, which is very exciting, and I might do that quite soon because super bulky knits, like, it's loads of fun. So I made those yesterday, just while he was playing with Lego, and he'd make presents for me with the Lego, present them to me in a box because he was being the postman, because he loves the postman. He alternates between being postman and Father Christmas. I would put down my knitting, open all of my presents from the box, appreciate the Lego creations he'd made for me. Then he'd go back and demolish them, make new ones for me, while I carried on knitting, and the cycle went on for quite a while. And then I finished making them after he went to bed. So yeah, just super fun, refreshing project with no stress and just lots of enjoyment. Then it happens this time of year. Lots of warm, cozy colours. This one I have shown before. I will show you briefly because I had thought that I might have this finished to show you, but it has not happened. I'm fine with that because I have been distracted by other fun things. This is a Scrumple waistcoat in progress. I'll talk about it very briefly because I have talked about it before. I've got the back finished. I'm just working on the fronts. And I kind of wanted to show you because this is something I have been doing a lot. I like working things 2 at a time. So sleeves, I did the sleeves on this 2 at a time, so I knew that I could use up literally all of my yarn. For the cuffs, I was working from the inside and outside of a ball. Again, it affects the twist of the yarn. The twist of the yarn will be slightly different on each end, but if you're doing it for a whole big project, by the time you get to the bottom or the end of your knitting, like, that difference in twist can become quite apparent, but if it's for small amounts, it's fine. And yes, so knitting 2 at a time. Sleeves, socks, mittens, slippers is fine. If you're knitting in the round, you can't lose track of where you are and which direction you're working because it's always obvious from the position of the yarn because you're always working on the knit side. With this, where you've got 2 flat pieces, it's very easy to get muddled up and not know which bit you're meant to do next, or if one piece, if you're part way through, it can just get confusing. I never ever stop in the middle section. So I will work all the way across. If I'm doing a right side row, I'll work from one side all the way to the other side of the other side. I don't stop in the middle ever because then you can end up with a couple of extra rows on one side and not the other if you accidentally choose the wrong piece to work on. And I have a little safety pin stitch marker just holding the 2 middle pieces together so that I can work them straight across. Obviously I need to change ends of yarn in the middle, but it means that my pieces don't slide around and it's much easier to keep track of them like that. So I do that a lot, so just so that it's a little bit easier to keep track of where I am. And this whole thing is inside out now. What have I done to it? So yeah, it's going to be a Scrumple waistcoat. It's going to be super nice. I don't know if I will have finished it in time to show you in a video. I don't know if this is going to be my last podcast episode before I go on leave. I'm really hoping to get one more out and maybe throw out my schedule a little bit. But there will be at least one more video coming before I vanish for a few months. Apparently we're doing that now. Okay, so while I'm on leave, I'm not going to be making new videos for the public YouTube channel. I will continue to make videos for Patreon. There's already an extensive back catalogue of videos there, and usually I do those monthly. They are likely to be slightly less than monthly and a little bit more casual, just while I'm on leave, because it's going to be very hard to scrape time together. But there will be videos there. I will probably also change my YouTube membership slightly so that you get access to those if you sign up as a YouTube member as well. But Patreon also comes with other benefits. And so if you like my videos and want to keep them coming for the months while I'm on leave, then that's probably a good way to go. I will have links to everything down below, because yeah, it's gonna be sad not sharing here for a while, but I will be sharing the projects I'm working on. I do have lots of plans of lots of personal projects that I'm excited to work on. I've got lots of fleece processing I want to do. I've got lots of spinning that I'd like to get on with, and obviously all time allowing, I'm hoping to share those. And there's a big old blog post on my website with what's happening with my website and everything while I am on leave. The shop will stay open, but I won't be dyeing anything new until I come back to work, autumn 2026. So yes, I'm hoping to get a couple more videos just kind of ready to go so I can schedule those so that they'll appear for you when I'm already on leave. But we shall see, because time is feeling scarce, not because I have less of it, just because everything is taking me much, much longer. All of me is moving very slowly now, and I am trying, as someone who likes to get lots of things done, I'm trying to allow myself some grace. So yes, I think it's just spinning we've got to go now. Yeah. So this, I should have put it in a basket or something nice. We've got a very unexciting box, but it's full of exciting things. Now, I can't remember which of these I showed you last time. I think I had shown you my little samples. These are Shetland wool. I think I did show you these. And these are wool from Marie, who is one of my lovely, lovely patrons. She's very kind, and she has sent me some more of the white one, which is Dotty, because I had mentioned that I particularly enjoyed spinning that, and it's very, very kind of her to send me that. And I had, because I've been having lots of fun with practicing my long draw spinning, which people have been very kindly offering me hints and tips on. It's It's very kind and I really appreciate the support, but I do also just like working things out, and I like just figuring out how my hands want to do things. Like, I've realised, I can't really tell, but I think I spin with my hands the other way round to most people, as in my drafting hand and my fibre controlling hand. Those probably aren't the right terms, but I think I do it the opposite way around to most people, which is bizarre. But yes, so I have been doing lots of long draw spinning. And so I think these are the ones I've done since last time I showed you. So I had done those little samples of Shetland. And then this was carding waste that Wing & Wool Work uses packaging. I get my fibre, which I use for my hand-dyed wool tops. Wing & Wool Work blend it up especially for me. And I also usually have spindles in the shop. I think I'm down to one last spindle, a drop spindle for anyone who wants to learn to spin. And they came packaged in this and other wool. And it was just carded waste, so I assume it's just a mixture of undyed wool. I don't know what breeds. There's a little bit of Kemp in there. And it spun up really enjoyably. It was just like random batting, and so I kind of pulled it out into something resembling a roving and then spun it up. And I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. And it's possibly one of the more consistent long draw ones I've spun. I am trying to spin thicker with my long draw than my natural inclination is, because my big projects I am spinning quite fine, and I'm proud of it, but it's also quite tedious and you don't get that gratification. And so spinning up a nice, relatively big skein of yarn in a very small period of time, because long draw is much faster and spinning thicker yarn is faster. It's just been so much fun, and so I might use this as a little spinning snack when I finish my next bobbin on the project I'm going to show you in a second. So that was carding waste. This is Vartblus. I've been waving this around a little bit. This is a continuation of the little sample I did a couple of videos ago. This is Vartblus from a local farm. All of the fibre sold out very quickly. There is still mill spun, beautiful DK weight yarn in the shop, which I'm still very tempted to steal some for a cardigan for myself. And so yes, this is, I'd say, probably an Aran weight. And it's come out much more consistent because, again, I've been practicing and getting the hang of things a bit and trying to balance. Like, I'd like to do a completely unsupported long draw. So basically just drafting with one hand against the tension of the wheel. But I'm allowing myself to occasionally get the other hand involved just to even things out where needed. And so I'm pleased with that. And then this was a little bit of fleece that a friend gave me in a plastic bag years ago from her partner's farm up in Scotland. And I was going to spin it all together, but these bits of fleece were actually very nice. Like, as far as I'm aware, the flock is mostly Scottish blackface. I think, judging from the difference in these fleeces, I suspect they've got some mules there, so maybe they've got some Blueface Leicester genetics in there. I need to check with her, because this is very, very Kempy. It could just be that it's from different parts of the fleece, but I'm not sure. This is very Kempy. I decided to keep it out and potentially use it as stuffing or something. It's got some nice scrunch to it. but it was much, much coarser. And this actually turned out beautifully. It's a lovely bit of yarn. And I made it into row lags on my big hand cards, which is something I've not done for years and years. And I had an enormous amount of fun with it. So lots of just woolen spun experiment adventures, which I've now drawn to a close with, but this one is going to have to make its way back in there at some point soon. Then the big spinning. I've been working towards this one for a very long time. This is not all of it. This is the amount that I am going to try and fit on my current bobbin. I will give you a look at my current bobbin. I'm not going to take it off the wheel because no. This is my fleece flax blend. I will link the playlist of this project because it's an ongoing one. It's taking a long time. It's already been a work in progress for ages. And so I've got all these pretty little nests and I've finally started spinning it. And it's behaving itself just much better than expected. I was mentally prepared for it to be a very, very slubby, texturally inconsistent, mad yarn. And in terms of thickness and things, it's actually behaving itself quite well. It is interesting constantly having to adapt technique from the bits that have more fleece to having more flax because they behave quite differently. But it is therefore an engaging spin and is really pleasing, but it is phenomenally slow just because I am spinning very fine and I'm looking down here because my wheel is right there. And so I'm expecting that to take me a long time because I have 8 bobbins to spin and then ply together. I'm going to be doing it as a 2-ply. I am making a video about this, about the spinning of this yarn as part of the series for this project, but I'm not sure how far I'll get with it and whether that will be one that's coming soon if I find lots of spinning time in the next week or 2, or if it's one that I wait until I've actually finished the yarn and therefore that will come to you probably quite a way down the road. But we shall see. I think that's all the things I have to show you. I do have like lots of plans. I still have literally all of my yarn stash on the floor behind you, which I need to pick up and tidy up, but I've been looking at leftovers that I can combine together to make jumpers for the small boy, because he is at the point where he has some nice jumpers that he can wear to keep him warm when we're, you know, out and about and things, but he gets very messy at nursery because they do lots of fun messy play and they spend a lot of time outside. And I buy a lot of clothes for him on Vinted, and most of the stuff on Vinted is like either loads of acrylic and polyester and stuff, which I'm just not willing to put him in. They're not things I want to bring into my house. I don't like synthetic fibres. I'm not like a complete embargo on them, but I prefer not to buy them if possible. But I do have a lot of yarn which is actually very nice yarn, but realistically is not enough for a project. So I'm considering doing a few scrappy things that I can just be not precious about, and I will hand wash them because I don't mind hand washing knits. I'm fine with it. Although I do put quite a few things in the washing machine on a wool cycle. It's fine. I do that. More precious things I don't. Hand spun stuff I tend not to. But a lot of my more like everyday hand knits, they go in the washing machine. And so I will be making some jumpers that he can get messy and that can be washed, and I won't be heartbroken if they get much more mucky than I would like to permit with some of his nicer things. So I just need to go through and like pick out the bits of stash leftovers that I want to combine into jumpers, and then just put all of the rest away because it's been out for too long and I need to make it behave. And I'm just rambling now, so I'm going to stop, and I will catch you next time. If you want to see what I'm up to in between videos, however many videos end up happening soon, or if you just want to keep up with me while I am not active here, I'm on Instagram. I'm still going to be posting my personal projects on Instagram. There's still a couple of weeks of shop stuff, and again, Patreon, I'm still going to be hanging out there. I'm still going to be posting occasionally and staying active there when I can. And so until next time, bye bye.